I started visiting the river soon after I moved to London just to get away from city life. And for the longest time, I just walked along the river path. And then one day, I decided to go down onto the foreshore. All you have to do is go down a ladder or some stairs, and it is just another world. Some people might say it's quite ugly. It's a kind of strange, ugly, beautiful place. I just love it out there. My name's Lara Maiklem, and I've been mudlarking for just over 15 years. The first thing I found was a clay pipe stem. It just made me realise that there was probably stuff down there and it was worth visiting. And as soon as I started finding other things, it became an obsession. The very first written record of the word mudlark comes from the end of the 18th century, but I'm quite sure there have been river scavengers right through from Roman times, because if there was something of value in the river, there'd be somebody there trying to find it. We're lucky. Modern mudlarks don't have to do that to survive. We do it as a hobby. Modern mudlarks are amateur archaeologists or historians, people who are interested in history, and people who like going down to the river and checking out of modern day life and looking for evidence of Londoners from days gone by. When I first started going down, I picked up pottery and clay pipes. They're the really easy things to see. Look for straight lines and perfect circles, the things that nature doesn't make. One of the questions I'm asked a lot is, am I a treasure hunter? And really it depends what you call treasure. There is treasure down there. There isn't probably that much that's hard to find. I search eyes only, so I don't dig and I don't scrape and I don't disturb the foreshore and I don't use a metal detector. So I like just taking home what the river offers. People go down there with metal detectors and they look for what people would call treasure, metal things that have some value. As far as I'm concerned, treasure has a wider definition. To me, the precious things are the things that link me to history or link me to forgotten individuals. I think my favourite find, it's a complete Tudor shoe. This one is a tiny one. It's a child's shoe. It was a heart-stopping moment as I pulled this out of the mud and it came out complete. The thing I love about shoes is that they're so personal. You can see exactly where their foot would have bent and where their toes poked out of the end. It's 500 years old and it's got these perfect lines from the last person who wore it. When I think about the child that lost this, it makes me wonder, did it slip off while they were getting into a boat? Were they trying to run across the mud and it got pulled off, or had it just worn out and they threw it away? Mud can preserve the most incredible things, wood, leather, and even fabric. The problem is that as soon as it comes out of the mud, it starts to degrade really quickly. Sometimes when they were digging basements and they were building further inland, they were digging into the Roman and medieval layers, and then they took the spoil and dumped it on the foreshore. Since the 60s and 70s, ships haven't been coming into London to unload, and so the foreshore's been forgotten and neglected, and the revetments have broken, and the river's turning it back into a natural V-shaped river. There's a double-edged sword. It's washing away a lot of valuable archaeology, but it's also washing out these objects and depositing them on the foreshore. When I find something like a pot, a complete Roman pot just lying on the foreshore, I do think about how many have been broken and destroyed over 2,000 years, and how lucky I am to be the person who happened to walk along and rescue that one from the tides, because they will all break down eventually. Rubbish was virtually unchanged until the end of the 19th century. Wood and pottery and bone and shells and all of that stuff broke down naturally. Until you get down onto the foreshore, you don't realise how much plastic's going in the river. When you get really, really close down, where you see the foreshore in close-up and you see what it's made of, the tiny little pieces of ceramics and tiny pieces of shell and bone and the pieces of plastic. You know that the shell and the bone and the pottery is all just going back into where it came from, essentially, but the plastic's going to be there for thousands of years. If we haven't completely destroyed the world in the way that we're behaving, people scavenging will find plastic. Virtually everything down there is there because human beings have put it there. And there were the odd things that were lost. This is a glass eye, and it scared me when I found it staring back at me from the mud like old Father Thames. It's even got blood vessels on the whites of the eye. Mudlarks use a phrase, getting your eye in, as you're searching for things. Once you see something once, it sort of imprints on your mind. It wasn't until I found my first coin that I started finding coins everywhere. This is a love token. It's a silver sixpence, very, very worn, and it became the fashion, particularly towards the end of the 17th century and the early 18th century, for a young man to bend a silver sixpence in front of his intended and to present it to her as a symbol of his affection. A good proportion ended up in the river. I get my kick out of that first moment I pick an object up, and it's like reaching back through hundreds of years, and you pick it up and you think, who made it? Who bought it? Who used it? Why did they throw it away? How did they lose it? All these questions pop into your mind. Who was it all those years ago? Someone who's been forgotten, who's lost to history. That's what I find fascinating. It's that direct link with the past these ordinary objects have with ordinary people. I look at the river and I think, you were flowing through here before we even came. We've narrowed it and channeled it. But once we've gone, it's still going to be flowing through. It's going to carry on flowing through. It's eternal, the river.